watching Shalom TV, celebrating Jewish culture. Funding for Shalom TV has been provided by the following: and by viewers like you.
Jewish Education in Media is pleased to present L'Chaim, a program that highlights the people, issues, and events of importance to the Jewish community. Now here is your host, Rabbi Mark Golub.
I'm Mark Golub, and one of the things we enjoy doing most is introducing you to the men and women who are truly leading Jewish life today and shaping the Jewish future, many of whom are not household names or people you might ever even have heard of, but they are people you should know. And so this week, as we begin a new season together, I'd like you to meet one of the individuals at the very epicenter of Jewish life today, Jewry Silverman, the still new President and CEO of the Jewish Federations of North America, which means that Jewry Silverman heads the single largest and in many ways the most important Jewish organization on the American Jewish scene. For in Jewish communities throughout North America, it's the local federation which has the responsibility of distributing Jewish dollars to Jewish causes, Jewish needs, domestically, here in the United States or Canada, in Israel, and really wherever there are Jews who depend upon other Jews for support. The Federation movement represents 157 individual federations and 400 independent Jewish communities. The Federation has become the central address in most American Jewish communities, working with the local synagogues and rabbis to support every aspect of Jewish life today. And again, the man who now leads it all, whose vision now guides the future of the Jewish Federations of North America, is Jewry Silverman, who in September of 2008 moved from his role as president of the Foundation for Jewish Camps, where Jewry revitalized the Jewish camping movement, to become the new president and chief executive officer of the Jewish Federations of North America. Actually, for more than 25 years, Jewry has been an extremely successful corporate executive. He held a range of top positions at such companies as StrideRite, Keds, and Levi Strauss, with a brand most of you well know, Dockers. And then in 2004, Jewry turned his talents formally to Jewish life. First, the Jewish camping movement, and now as leader of the Jewish Federations of North America. And you should know that Jewry has been enthusiastically received by Federation executives and Federation volunteers throughout North America. And recently, we had the wonderful opportunity to sit with Jewry in his New York offices to talk about his extraordinary Jewish background and to give you a real sense of who Jewry Silverman is, some of his vision for the Jewish future, and to introduce you to a very, very lovely human being whom every one of you should know. Here then is my meeting with Jewry Silverman. When did you begin formally?
September 8th, 2009.
You have excited federations across the country. You have done speaking all over this nation. And I want to first say to you, kol hakavod to you. The work you've done already has been dramatic. You've made a difference already. And then I know how hectic it is for you. And I was speaking with Joe, your schedule is just incredible. So that you would sit with me for a little bit and share some thoughts with our audience is very kind of you. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you. It's a privilege to sit with you and have some time to decompose and to just chat for a few minutes. Just a couple of comments. I was blessed with a team of about 16 people at Dockers who developed the brand, who really I learned an inordinate amount from. And from a point of the Foundation for Jewish Camp, the ability to work with such great visionaries who actually started the foundation, the Rob and Elisa Bildner, and the next chair, Skip Vickness, and with an amazing group of professionals, we were able to work with the camping movement together to, I think, in many ways invigorate and excite families about that opportunity.
Well, you did an extraordinary job, and I'm sure you had a wonderful group of people around you. I want to first talk a little bit about you personally, and then I want some sense of your vision for where you hope federations are going to go, and how Jerry Silverman looks at the American Jewish community and really the world Jewish scene. So first of all, a little bit about you. Tell us about your own Jewish background. Where did you grow up, and what kind of Jewish home did you grow up?
Well, I was born in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I was blessed to be part of a very, very active and involved Jewish family. My father was in the clergy.
He was a rabbi?
He was a cantor first, and then went back and became a rabbi.
What was his name? Is he still alive?
And my father's retired in Florida. His name's Rabbi David Silverman.
David Silverman.
And my mother comes from a long line of rabbis and cantors. Her father actually was a rabbi who got his smicha in the Mir Yeshiva in 1930. And but he was a rabbi, a cantor, a moel, a balkore, and a shochet.
Wow.
And so came from a long line of clergy and really righteous people who were very committed family. My grandmother on my mother's side was a survivor in a certain way, in that she lost 8 brothers, her parents and grandparents, in the Holocaust. And I had the opportunity to spend a lot of time with my grandparents growing up, and it was really fascinating that she never really forgave herself for making it through, and was that type of survivor. But always, there wasn't a day that went by that she didn't talk about her family and with love, and that they should be remembered, and talk about Israel and how important Israel is to all of us and should be in our core and in our being.
And this is the environment in which you grew up.
It's the environment in which I grew up.
Jewishness sort of permeated your childhood.
It was in the DNA. It was in the pores. It was in the household. It was,
Shabbat at home?
Shabbat at home was, just a joyous, loud experience with 2 brothers and a sister, and a family, an extended family. My mother's sister and her family always spent Shabbat with us, and it was. And Chagim and families.
I get chills, Jerry.
It was just one of those enormous, high energy, spirited household filled with a tremendous love of Judaism, and a love of laughter, and a love of joy of Judaism, and a pride in Judaism.
How lucky you were.
I was blessed, and we ended up moving to Cleveland and then on to upstate New York, and so it was. It was always, family. My mother, who was such a center in my life, this concept of a Jewish family,
yes,
was something that she lived and was such a role model for us.
How?
It was never an option not to be home for a Friday night dinner. It was never an option not to be home for a Chag. It was never an option not to be respectful to her parents or my father's mother, or to take the time to go visit them later on in their years, or to spend summers with them. It wasn't even a question. Our first cousins, who we were so close to, who in actuality, one made Aliyah and is head of all content, internet content for Yad Vashem, who was completely influenced by this grandmother of ours, and now she's really taking on this whole concept of the soul of our grandmother into this remembrance of Yad Vashem, which is something we're all so proud of. And my mother always not drilled it into us, but just made it a part of who we were.
It's what she expected of you.
It's what she expected and what she modeled.
Mm-hmm.
When her father was in later years, her father moved in with her for the last 3 years or 4 years.
And that's what you saw and lived with.
And that's what we saw and lived with, and something we took pride in. And even though she sacrificed her own social life and whatnot, it was just, part of her belief in kabedas avicha v'yasimecha.
That you always honor your mother and father.
Honor your mother and father, and according to the Gemara, it also talks about the greatest gift of this commandment is the time you spent with them. It's not about talking to, it's the time that you give to them. And she always brought that to light, that it's the time. Don't cheat yourself on the time you have with your parents.
I'll say it again, you were so blessed, your word, but you're so lucky. You know that this is not a typical description of Jewish households.
I'm certain of it, and you don't get to choose, but we were privileged, and it really truly was a blessing for us.
And where do you fall among the 4 siblings?
I'm third son, and then there's a younger sister.
Okay, so you were not the oldest.
No.
How did that work out for you?
I was an incredible instigator.
Were you?
I was a troublemaker. I was an instigator. I was always known to be mischievous in my growing up years. I was also the one who would make my father laugh on the bima and make him smile at probably not the most opportune times.
Do you remember being the son of a rabbi fondly, or was it a burden?
Oh, it was a gift.
Tell me why. There are many children who say it was a burden.
It was a gift. I do know that, and as we call ourselves PKs, preachers' kids. To me, it was such a. As I look back on it today, it was such a learning experience. My years of spending time with adults started at 5. On Simchat Torah, where I was the bartender, and engaging with adults and engaging in conversation and being and sitting at the table. It was really fascinating to me, and my father was really terrific in allowing me to go with him and to observe the varying conversations that he had with people, and how incredibly sensitive and what a great listener he was to his constituency, and the types of relationships that he built with people. So for me, it was a privilege, and it also taught me that, there's absolutely jewels and diamonds in every person, and you never know what can happen. Example, one of his congregants in upstate New York, in Batavia, New York, lived 45 miles away from home in a small town called Lindenville, New York, on a cattle farm. My father went out to the farm twice a week, every week, to teach the 2 boys Hebrew and Bible and Tanakh and whatnot. And I used to drive, especially after I got my license, my mother would say, drive with your father, keep him company, and I would go out there, and then I would spend time with the boys individually when the other was learning. What was fascinating is, my father always kept up a relationship with them as the family evolved to this day. And you look at the son of a cattle farmer who now is the CEO worldwide of the Orthodox Union, Rabbi Stephen Weil.
No, really?
And it, to me, the concept of you never know greatness and where greatness may come from a sense of roots or place. That's an example. My father always taught me growing up, never judge. You never know what's going to happen in life.
Now, your father was David, your mother's name?
Florence. May she rest in peace.
Okay. So you talked about the laughter at the Shabbat table, even making your father laugh on the bima. Was there also at the Shabbat table or around your dinner table in general, a flow of ideas? Was there an intellectual content as well?
There was constant dialogue, depending on who was able to carry the floor of the day. The dialogue always surrounded varying topics of the Parsha, topics of how the Parsha relates to life, topics of Israel. Because you're remembering, this is the 1960s and the early 1970s. And Israel,
Just post-67 war.
this is just pre and post 67. I remember the war and going to the congregation with my dad and watching the appeal.
How old were you, roughly?
I was not roughly, I was 9. And just listening to the appeal and the card calling that took place was something that is etched in my memory, to see the entire community immediately come together and really, in their part, were able to participate, you know, in a world event.
So at your table, you're always talking about ideas as well.
We were talking about varying ideas and thoughts and contemplating initiatives, and also talking about ways that we can beat the system. That was more me coming to the table with varying ideas, but it was an incubator of thought. I have a brother who is our educator in the family. He runs the largest modern Orthodox camp in North America, and has for 22
His
years.
name?
Alan Silverman.
And where is he?
Camp Mosheva. Lives in Israel. Lives the dream of Zionism. And then brings it to America and teaches it at a camp. He's the hero of the family, I call him, because he's influenced thousands upon thousands of young people. And Alan is a very cerebral, thoughtful person, brilliant, tzaddik. And he was always thinking about opportunities, and always thinking about varying ways that we should be acting and really trying to help others. Very committed to his fellow person. And all of that came at the table.
Jewry, I can't tell you how moving I find this to be. And I want to tell you, it's not exactly a story, but I want your reaction to this incident that I experienced when I was in Israel recently. And I was at a celebration for Birthright. And Michael Oren, now the ambassador, Israel's ambassador to Washington, spoke. And he got up and he gave a little bit of his own background. And he said, 3 things influenced me. I grew up in New Jersey. I had to deal with anti-Semitism on a real basis for a period of time, almost every day. Then the Holocaust was a reality in my life because of family. And during the 6-day war, my entire family was gripped by this event. And I remember my father coming down to the table one breakfast morning, and he had Life magazine in his hands. And it was the famous cover of Life magazine with the Israeli soldier holding a rifle above his head. I believe it was an Egyptian rifle he had taken, crossing the Suez Canal with this gorgeous smile on his face. And Michael Oren's father said to his son, "I love this boy." And he kissed the picture. And Michael said that stayed with him his whole life. And the last thing was his involvement in Soviet Jewry, and how there was not only a drama to the entire movement, but an excitement and a feeling that they were really we were accomplishing something by setting an entire community of Jews free who had been enslaved in the former Soviet Union. And he said, these are the things that influenced me. And interestingly enough, for his own bar mitzvah ceremony, Michael Oren read transliterated Hebrew. He could not read Hebrew at his bar mitzvah, and now he is fluent in Hebrew and is the ambassador for the state of Israel to Washington as a result of these experiences. And I asked myself, and I'm going to ask you now, what are the equivalents for young people growing up today? The Holocaust is ancient history. They never knew a time when there wasn't a state of Israel. Instead of the excitement of the Six-Day War, and I remember there was this dread, this concern, would Israel survive? And the next thing you knew, there was the entire image of the Jew was changed overnight by the Six-Day War. But Israel has always been in existence, and today most young people see it as an occupying force on the West Bank. And there's no more community to save. We've saved the Jews of the world. And even the Jewish Agency, which I wanted to talk to you about, which you help now fund, the Jewish Agency has an entirely new agenda, really the Jewish future, not saving Jewish communities. All of these were experiences that Michael Oren had that shaped him. And I'm wondering to myself, what will help shape the next generation that has none of these experiences? Then I hear Jerry Silverman talk about his family. And what you experienced made you who you are. It made your brothers who they are, your sister who she is. And the way you speak is the way we want every Jewish child becoming an adult to speak. But I'm worried that the experience you had is not typical and is a rare gift. So I'm now asking you for your own sort of analysis as you look at contemporary Jewish life. Where is it going to come for young Jews today, the experiences Michael Oren had and the experience you had in an extraordinary home with an extraordinary mother and father?
So it's a great question you ask, Mark. I'm going to answer it in a couple of different ways, if I may. Number one, I would share with you that the way we grew up, and Ambassador Oren is an icon. I've had the pleasure and the privilege of getting to know him, and his energy and his emotion and his passion for Israel and Jewishkeit is really special to have at this moment in time. And if you look back to my parents' generation and you would ask the same question and look at their experiences that molded them, they were different than the ones that molded me, frankly. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And even their parents, going back to my grandparents and listening to their dialogues of the fact that my grandmother and grandfather were arranged at birth, their marriage. And we're in a spectacular evolution right now of change in the environment. And we need to embrace the change that's going on, because from a sense of optimism and a sense of possibilities, the types of experiences and the grounding that we were able to receive are just different types of experiences and different kinds of grounding today. So if you look at today's times and you think about how children evolve the concept of identity, which is wrapped around meaning and purpose, there's all new experiences today as we live in such a different world, in a small world, especially based on the advent of media. And the whole concept today of young people starting in their early childhood, and you think about the fact that today 60,000 families today are getting PJ Library mm-hmm. in their homes, mm-hmm. Sponsored by Harold Grinspoon Foundation and his great entrepreneurship and ideas, and how you have Jewish families reading to their children right at early childhood, and you have a real sense of new early childhood programs that are being developed out there. But as you get older and you think about the concept of the rooting of identity and the rooting of this pride and love of Jewish into the core, it's different in that, it's surrounding the concept of social justice and social action and travel and different experiences that are 24/7. The concept of Jewish education and how it's being delivered today is much different than it was delivered 25, 30 years ago. Whether it be in day school, whether it be in afternoon high school, whether it be in youth groups, whether it be in Israel travel. The concept of Israel travel today is so different than it was 25 years ago. 25 years ago when you were going to Israel, it was a monumentous event. It was a moment in time in the family. And today it's a moment in time on a given month in a family life cycle. And I think we need to look at these new experiences that are available to us today and figure out how we can embrace, encourage, enhance, and expand those experiences. We have to look at birthright. 240,000 young people have now gone on birthright. And the research that came out from the Cohen Center, led by Len Sachs, tells us that there is quite an influence and a flame that's been ignited, by this incredible 10-day experience. And you look at that piece to the puzzle. You look at the high school programs that are happening in Israel. You look at the Masa program that started off at 2,500, which is over 9,000, and will well be into the mega thousands, I think, 5 years from now. You look at the opportunities of social justice that are available, whether it be doing social action work domestically and in communities, whether it be in New Orleans or different places that Hillel has sent thousands upon thousands of young people, not just to do great work, but they celebrate Shabbat. They're together 24/7. The AJWS is doing all kinds of varying programming to expose young people. The JDC is doing all kinds of programming to expose young people in social justice and social action today. It's really phenomenal if you look at the creativity. And then if you look at the post-college work that's being done, whether it's by JDub or by Present Tense or by Moish Houses, Jumpstart, what the Joshua Venture Group is doing, is, to me, the innovation that's going on today. It's very different than just the Center for the Family. But we didn't have all of those experiences now. Now the Jewish world has exploded with all these varying great experiences out there, in many cases, the Federation at the center in being the convener and the driver of many of these great entrepreneurial ideas, which is so exciting. And it's so exciting to be where I am today. But it's different. I look at it from a different lens if I look at my private sector background, and I look at the fact that in the 1970s, 45% of retail sales were done in department stores, in mainline department stores today. Today it's about 18%. There's been a tremendous shift. First into the specialty store business, then into the value store business and the big boxes, and then into the clubs, and then into e-tailing, and then into the internet as it evolved and shifted. Consumerism is still at its great height. It's just changed. And I'm really excited because we're in an evolution and we're in a time of change. And to me, it's spectacular to see all the varying avenues and portals of entry that we have today. And guess what? We don't have enough. We need more.
Where's the challenge then? And I use the word challenge. It's a euphemism for where are the problems. You describe something so beautifully. I don't want anybody to think you don't think that the Jewish community also faces problems. Again, as the Jewish Agency is caring about sustaining the Jewish future. Where is the problem? Where's the challenge as you see it?
Well, the beauty is with great possibilities and great opportunities, there's always that concept of balancing the challenges. And we're facing right now some of the biggest challenges that we've ever faced.
For example?
We're facing, first of all, a demonization and delegitimization of Israel. That is a movement that has really been attacking the world, not just the United States, but the world. You read an article yesterday about the head of the Jewish community in London talking about this and how prevalent it's been for so many years, and how it's hit basically the North American shores over the last 10 years, and the work that's being done, whether it be in business, whether it be through other religions, whether it be on college campuses today. And we've been really slow to combat the messaging. We haven't done good messaging. The State of Israel hasn't done great messaging. And so, we here believe that it's really our responsibility to be able to change the conversation around. That's a challenge on how we're going to be able to really create the right messaging and get the real story and the facts out.
And
that's one challenge.
And from your perspective, is that one of the roles now for federations?
Absolutely. I believe that federations in partnership with other organizations across the board, it's all of our responsibility, but federations, I believe, we have to, take a stand, in all of our missions. We're mission driven. All of our mission is about our commitment to Israel, our protection of Israel, the creating Israel as a core, having a Jewish state. It's part of who we are. So yes.
And so the advocacy and the information about Israel is something you feel is a responsibility of federations.
I absolutely feel that way. And if you look at, for example, when the flotilla occurred, the information first started coming out about 11 a.m. Israel time. And we started our work about 4:15. And by 10 a.m. U.S. time, within 5 hours, we had a major message out to the Jewish community across North America that really outlined the facts of what really occurred that morning. But that message was out front, and it was out early. And we have to be there to do that. And having 157 federations and an additional 450 network communities gives us both the reach, it gives us the infrastructure to be able to get that message out and get it out rapidly. And whether it's caring for local issues, whether it's families who are losing their homes because jobs were lost so quickly, or fortunes or savings were lost, and feeding people even, and helping people who never thought they would be in those situations. In creating, whether it's Connect to Care in New York, or mortgage type programs in Detroit, or J Help in Chicago, the work that was done in LA, Dallas. I mean, I could go on and on. The creativity was magnificent, and at the same time, maintaining the global responsibility, and with the JDC, with Jaffe, in really being responsible for Jews all around the world. Kol Yisrael Arevim Zeh B'Zeh.
We're all responsible for each other.
And not just in the Jewish sector. If you look at the work that was done in Haiti, with the funds that were raised out of pure, not fundraising, give us money, but out of this concept of tzedakah, seeing a person in need based on that devastation, and seeing how fast the federations jumped into opening up the opportunity for federations to give, and then seeing the magnificence of what the JDC did in such a short time as the Israel Aid sent that hospital in 24, 36 hours, that we were so proud of Israel, having that ability to do that. But one of the challenges was they sent in an adult hospital. They didn't have any type of surgical or any type of equipment to handle pediatrics. And the JDC realizing that in another 12 to 24 hours, had full pediatric, from medications to utensils to incubators that did not stop being used. And you saw it on CNN.
It was extraordinary, Jerry.
It was extraordinary, and that's not just being caring for Jews. It's being a light unto nations, which Isaiah tells us we have a responsibility to do.
You know, I don't know, I think it was in the late 70s, middle 70s, I had the privilege of working with the Synagogue Council of America when Henry Siegman was directing the Synagogue Council of America. And I was asked to do a study in 5 American cities of the relationship between the Federation and the synagogues in those communities. And the reason was, during that period of time, there was conflict between the synagogue and the Federation over where would the central address be in any community. You know, you weren't in Federation life then, but you know the story. The whole issue is, where would the central address of any community be? Would it be the Federation office, or would it be the main synagogue in town? And how did the rabbis relate to the role that federations were playing? Where is that conflict or resolution today?
In almost every community, the relationship and the work that's being done. In my home community of Boston, you see the amazing relationship between Federation and the work that's being done through the synagogues. If you look here in New York, and you look at how the Federation is working in concert with congregations.
Absolutely.
Bringing together and saying, if this is where our constituency and our community is coming, then let's put resources, human resources, to broaden the reach of the congregation within the community, because they're closer to the community. And, you know, by putting social workers into congregations to accentuate and to enhance the reach. It's really happening all over the place. I was in Los Angeles, and you look at the fact that they still have rabbinical staff and reach into the community, and how many communities around the country, federations, are supporting rabbis studying at the Hartman Institute in Israel and various things going on. I think the relationship has significantly evolved to one of partnership.
Right. Rabbis now are much more supportive of Federation, don't you feel?
I feel it wholeheartedly across the board.
Okay. Talk to me about another specific issue I hear all the time. That there is still, in the American Jewish community, only about 35% of adults have ever gone to Israel. That there is a significant number of Jews who give much more to non-Jewish causes than they do to Jewish causes. And I need to ask you, as you look at the fundraising aspect of Federation today, how much of a problem do you face? Is it as much of a problem as we hear, or is the problem overblown? Are you optimistic about where we're going in that area, or is there an area of concern that you want to share with me?
A few things. Just from a background sense, being a salesman for many years, my first territory with Levi's was Oklahoma and Arkansas, and selling on the road for many years, as well as fundraising as a volunteer and fundraising at the Foundation for Jewish Camp, and now in federations. I love the concept of marketing, and I love the concept of positioning and thinking about how we position both the Federation and think about the opportunities. And I think you're absolutely right. I truly believe there are more dollars available for the concept of Jewish Renaissance and Jewish life and the Jewish future than all of the organizations worldwide could possibly spend. I believe that from a point of specifics of your question, I believe over the economic time period of the last 2 years, there's been a drop in some of the annual campaigns. Not all of them. Some communities have held their own very well. But in many of the communities, they've had a drop in their campaign. But there's still a significant amount of dollars being raised in order to build this concept of community. And there's huge, and when I mean huge, I mean enormous opportunities for us to reach out in new ways and to be incredibly much more creative than we've been in the past, to look at potential opportunities and potential investors who haven't seen their way to invest in the Jewish community. I saw it both as a volunteer, I saw it at the Foundation for Jewish Camp, where we were able to encourage investors who weren't investing Jewishly and to bring them in. And I believe we in the Federation, as we look to innovate and to do things very differently, maintaining our relationships, but building new relationships and many new relationships, both with investors who haven't seen fit to invest in the Jewish community, and to really engage the younger generation into Jewish life first, and then a share of that market will evolve, I believe, and engage into Federation life, will significantly enhance our upside in the next 5 years. I truly believe the opportunity is there for us. We have to do it differently. What Les Wexner has told me on numerous occasions since I've taken the job, and I've been blessed with a little bit of his time. Every time I meet with him, he says, what brought us here won't get us there. And we have to understand what did bring us here and what values do we need to keep inherent, but what do we need to do differently to get us there? And that's what we're working on.
Jewry Silverman, I'm an enormous fan.
Oh my gosh.
You are out of this world. You've got a wonderful neshama, and you've got a spirit and enthusiasm that is infectious in a positive way. Yeah. And I am so thrilled that the Jewish community was wise enough to choose you now to lead the Jewish Federations of North America. You have an opportunity here to make an enormous impact for good throughout the Jewish world, not simply here in America. And it is my hope that you will go from strength to strength, and that the enthusiasm and that the goodness that just emanates from you will be something that will inspire everyone you come in contact with. And I also hope that in the midst of this extraordinary busy schedule that you have, from time to time you'll let me come and share your wisdom and share your insights with our community. But Kol Tuva Hatzlacha, you are really out of this world.
Really a pleasure.
Really very, very special person.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Jewry.
It's great.
Very, very much. And those were the thoughts of Jewry Silverman, President and CEO of the Jewish Federations of North America. I hope you enjoyed meeting him. As always, I invite you to be in touch with me with any thoughts or comments you may have. And if you want to be in touch with Jewry Silverman, you can do so through me. Simply email us, and we will send your emails on to him. I look forward to hearing from many of you. Until the next time, I'm Mark Golub. Be well, my friends.
L'chaim is a presentation of Jewish education in media.
We would be pleased to send a complimentary DVD of this program to anyone who can send a tax-deductible contribution of $36 or more to the nonprofit organization Jewish Education in Media to help support our programming. Tax-deductible checks may be made out to GEM and mailed to GEM, Post Office Box 180, Riverdale Station, Bronx, New York, 10471. Please indicate the program for which you would like a DVD, and we thank you for your kind support.